welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, the tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome.
Welcome back. All right, give a stretch. Oh, that's good. Okay. All right, welcome back. Hopefully that last work session was a productive one for you. For me, I'm almost done with all the post-radio show promo stuff, but I got trapped up in the social media and scrolling for a little bit, but I'm almost done. And so I want to talk about this article. I haven't fully gone through it yet, but I'm always a fan of learning more about like CSS and what you can do with it, because it's becoming like a programming language at this point. You know what I'm saying? We got variables, they got functions, you can calculate things now. Like, yeah, it's basically and then I hear you coming soon, I think like if statements or something like that. And you kind of have that like with media queries now already. So if something's a certain width or what have you, then make this other stuff happen. And then like with the has, and so yeah, it's basically a programming language right now. And I want to talk about this article that I came across on Smashing Magazine, a really dope website for a lot of things with like design and stuff. You know what I mean? And so shouts to them. I'm a big fan. And I'm adding a link to it so that next to the recording of the video, you'll be able to check it out. But I want to kind of just quickly go over it. And there was like an example that I thought was pretty dope at the end. And again, I'm still going through it, but it's a lot. So it's something you kind of like, slowly go through and ingest all the information that is, the knowledge being dropped. So, shouts to Brecht de Ruit. I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced that. But shout to them. Modern CSS layouts. You might not need a framework for that. I'm always a big fan of also like using the platform and like what's there, you know what I'm saying, without too many things added on top of it. You know what I mean? So see, it's like a 22-minute read. So yeah. All right. So quick summary. It's easy to get lost in a sea of CSS frameworks and libraries, each promising easier styling and smoother layouts. But amidst this abundance, the modern CSS features we have today offer simpler and more flexible approaches without the added dependencies or abstractions. Brecht de Ruit demonstrates 4 CSS utility classes plus a bonus. And so, so this utility class, see, that is kind of new to me because it uses the at layout, which I'm not too familiar with. So this is like a cool thing to look into. Using techniques that allow them to be used practically anywhere you need a particular layout, be it grid or flexbox, with configurable options. So like with the CSS variables. All right. So then kind of go through here, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, establishing layouts in CSS is something that we as developers often delegate to whatever framework we're most comfortable using. And even though it's possible to configure a framework to get just what we need out of it, how often have you integrated an entire CSS library simply for its layout features? Because there was one, Bulma. I remember using Bulma just to be able to like center things the way I want and have it look nice and everything. Because I think I wanted like it to take up the full width and height. That's before I knew about like 100 VH and all that stuff. And so it's just kind of nice. It was like, hey, you want this thing full width? So word. I'm sure many of us have done it at some point, dating back to the days of 960.js, Bootstrap, all right, Suzy, and I remember Foundation too. Suzy, I know I'm familiar with, or 960, I'm not sure if that one is. So modern CSS features have significantly cut the need to reach for a framework simply for its layout. Yet I continue to see it happen. Or I empathize with many of my colleagues who find themselves recreating the same grid or flexbox layout over and over again. So I mean, because back in the day, you may have needed those things, but like the web is just getting better and better every like day. So that's pretty dope. So we gain greater control over web layouts. Specifically, we'll create 4 CSS classes. So classes, like I said, there's getting to be where it's like programming and stuff, you know what I'm saying, that you'll be able to take and use immediately on just about any project or place where you need in a particular layout that can be configured to your needs. All right, so then we get there. So what we're making, we're going to establish 4 CSS classes, each with different layout approach. The idea is that if you need, say, a fluid layout based on Flexbox, you have it already. Oh no, you have it ready. The same goes for the 3 other classes we're making. All right, so then with those 2 groups of Flexbox and grid layouts are 2 utility classes. One that autofills the available space, we're calling these fluid layouts. All right, so if it goes, if it fills the space that's available, fluid layouts. And then another where we have greater control over the columns and rows. We're calling those repeating layouts. All right. And then, so then container queries, that's something I've been using like recently also. It's pretty dope. So finally, we'll integrate CSS container queries so that these layouts respond to their own size for responsive behavior rather than the size of the viewport. So like the example, I think they have like a card, and the layout of the card changes depending on not necessarily the viewport width, but like its own width. So all the elements inside of it change depending on the size of the card itself. You know what I'm saying? Which then I think the card is depending upon like the viewport, like if it can fit within a certain thing. Cool. So yeah, we'll start. Where we'll start though is organizing our work into cascade layers. So again, the layers thing, which is still kind of new to me, which further allow you to control the level of specificity, and prevent style conflicts with your own CSS. Because yeah, that's something that you really gotta watch out for, style conflicts. All right, cool. So yeah, so then here are the different layers. So the reset, theme, layout. All right. Oops. Scrolled on the wrong page. All right. So notice the order because it really, really matters. Okay, so I did not know that. The reset layer comes first, making it the least specific layer of the bunch. Okay. The layout layer comes in at the end, making it the most specific set of styles, giving them higher priority than the styles in the other 2 layers. All right. Okay. If we need an unlayered style, that one would be added last and thus the highest specificity. Yes, specificity. So an unlayered style. Okay, so if you want to undo all the previous ones, you'd make that the last one. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So implicit outer layer. So again, it goes from reset theme layout, reset theme layout. Okay. Cool. And they have this whole thing getting started with cascade layers. So if you want to find out more about that at layer stuff, you can. All right, so the reset layer will contain styles for any user agent styles we want to reset. You can add your own resets here, or if you already have a reset in your project, you can safely move on without this particular layer. However, do remember that unlayered styles will be read last. So wrap them in this layer if needed. Okay. So when they say unlayered, let's see, hold on. Oh, okay. So anything that's not within the at layer thing or the reset or whatever, that's going to be okay. So that will be the unlayered, which means it's the most specific. So those will overwrite everything. So you don't even have to put anything there. Anything that's not within these 3 will overwrite them. Okay. I think I got that. All right. So we'll see if there's like an example. So I'm just going to drop in the popular box sizing. Yeah, that's pretty much a good thing here. That ensures all elements are sized consistently by the border box in accordance with the CSS box model. Yeah, so normally I've never even done like the before and after like pseudo selectors before. Normally I just put like the star and then border box sizing border box. And then, yeah, of course, margin 0 on the border. So I'll even do like padding sometimes, just in case. Then the theme layer. This layer provides variable scope to the root elements. Okay, I like the idea of scoping variables this high up the chain because layout containers, which is the next one after that, like the utility classes we're creating, are often wrappers around lots of other elements, and a global scope ensures that the variables are available anywhere we need them. Okay. That said, it is possible to scope these locally to another element if need to. Okay, so then here we go. So, yeah, these are CSS variables here. Okay, and at the root. So I wonder, I guess I guess you can't do at root anywhere else, could you? This layer, what? Okay, so I think that's what he's setting. So yeah, because I guess you could put this like in the reset if you wanted to or whatever, but putting it in the theme so that the theme is like the whole site, you know what I'm saying, how it looks and everything. So I guess that makes sense to put that there. So in order, these map to the following. So automatically size columns that are at least 35 characters wide. Okay. And then a layout with 3 repeated columns. All right. And then a gap between the layout items that is set to 3% of the largest side of the viewport. All right, cool. And then, okay, so yeah, the variables are prefixed with layout hyphen, which I'm using as an identifier for layout specific values. This is my personal preference for structuring this work, but please choose a naming convention that fits your mental model. Okay, that's cool to be able to see how other people do stuff. That's dope. That's why I like to read other people's code. And then we have the layout layer. So this layer will hold our utility classes, utility class rule sets, which is where all the magic happens. So yes, because this is so this is still theme. That was the theme layer. Oh, but he called it okay. So these are the things that are going to go into the layout. All right. Okay. So now we're in the layout layer. So this is going to hold our utility class rule sets, which is where all the magic happens. Okay. For the grid, we will include a 5th class specifically for using CSS subgrid, which I've never really got much use out of, or not used, but I never used it within a grid container for those possible use cases. All right, so we got a repeating grid, repeating flex, fluid grid, fluid flex, like we saw before when they said they were doing the stuff. Where is it? Of course, I'm missing it. They mentioned it. Where was it? Yeah, the fluid layouts, repeating layouts. So that's what we're doing there. Okay, so yes, the repeating and fluid for both the grid flex. Okay, and then the subgrid rows, like they mentioned here. Okay, now that all our layers are organized, variables are set, and rule sets are defined, we can begin working on the layouts themselves. We will start with the repeating layouts, one based on CSS grid and the other using Flexbox. All right, cool. All right, so then they kind of go through this. So they talk about the repeating grid, and then so layout, yeah, and then in that repeating grid, of course, display grid. And so so they have that layout default repeat from before. So it's going to repeat, I think, 3 times, with it being like one fractional ratio, something like that, one fractional unit, something like that. So basically, it takes up the whole width. So yeah, but it repeats this many times, so it makes it like a third. So it takes up the space that's there. Then the grid, so then the gap in between is what they said before. Okay. Yeah, one fraction. So yeah. So we now have a grid container with 3 equally sized columns that take up one fraction, one FR, of the available space with a gap between them. Yeah. Which I think was like 3%, 3 VM. What was it, V max or something like that? Okay. So we're going to turn it into a system where you can configure the number of columns and the size of the gap. So we're going to introduce new variable scope to this grid. So I wonder where that goes. So we have the repeating grid. Okay, yeah, so they switched it with the grid repeat. What's weird is, so they have this underscore here, but they don't have the underscore here. So that's something that kind of like, oh no, it's right here. My bad. It's right there. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So do they set that somewhere? So here's a repeating grid. So this is what happens when you do the repeating grid. Cool. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so all right, so yeah, that's where you would set that. So if it is set, use it. Otherwise, use this, which is what we set from before. And then this is what you set in the actual, okay, interesting. Yeah, so this is what you set on your properties that you have here. Okay, and then you can switch them around. Interesting. So yeah, so the product grid normally it would be, 2 column with a 1 FR, and then the gap of that. But then if it gets bigger than 1,000, it's going to turn to 3. I wonder if you can size this. No, you can't. So yeah, so when it gets bigger, then the gap it'll be 3 columns with a wider gap in between. Okay. So then they go through the same thing with a flex. All right. Cool. And then the fluid grid and flex layouts. So now they do the fluid because before it was the repeating. Here's the fluid. And so fluid flex. And then they got the subgrid utility. And they have all this stuff about pseudo classes. The has, we was talking about that before, the has thing too. So you can see all this, like it's almost like, you know what I'm saying? Like, look, it's like becoming like a programming language. You know what I'm saying? That's wild. And yeah, okay, cool. So there's a whole lot of stuff here you can check out. But I want to take a look at that card layout. Let me do this in here. So this was that card layout that they had both for fluid grid. And so what's cool is, so you have these cards, right? I think even if I get even wider, hold on, let me see if I can open this in a new thing. No, this won't let me. That's fine. So I think if it goes wider, it'll turn to 3 columns, but for right now, we just have this, right? And so pay attention to the cards. So you have like the title, the image, and some text below it. And then as it, depending on the size, then it switches over to this type of card layout where it's the same title at the top, image to the left, and then to the right is the text, which is pretty cool. And if you keep on going, then it goes back to kind of, but then now they're stacked because before it was like 2 across. And so now they're stacked and keep on going. I think that's it. I don't think it does anything else. But what you could also do is like, if this gets too long, you can maybe even have like this shortened and maybe even put like a README. I think you could do that. But then the link, yeah, I think you could probably do that. Like if you had a link to like read more or something, or even like a little drop down to show more, to show the rest of it. And then you can, if you want to maybe like remove the image or something, you know what I'm saying? Or remove the title or whatever as it gets smaller and smaller. I think it's pretty cool. All that's done is just like CSS. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, so I just wanted to show that. I think it's, so yeah, so this article is pretty dope. Shouts to them. And yeah, I'm gonna get y'all back to work. I'll put a link to it if you want to check it out for yourself. But I'm always a big fan of like having like pretty good layouts and layouts that change depending on the size of the device as well. So you don't have to go into all that work. You want to make sure it looks nice across all devices. So yeah, but super dope. Shouts to them. Real dope article. Again, the link will be next to the recording of this video. So I'm gonna get y'all back to work because I want to finish up this social media thing and then get started on some other stuff that I need to work on. So the things I need to get into motion. So I'm gonna try and do that this upcoming work session. So, all right. Yeah, cool. So we get y'all back to work. Thanks for hanging out. See you 15 minutes after the hour. Till then, I wish you much productivity. The traveling music right now is going to be Anthony Cruz, aka A Butta. The track is called Thank You. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you 15 minutes after the hour. We'll take a look at an artist's website. All right, y'all be easy, and peace. Thanks.
I want to say thank you for holding on when a brother was down and out. Now I feel so strong, and I want to say thank you for being there when a brother had nowhere to turn to. You were there, and I feel like there, and everybody says there. We spread love like I wanna say thank you for holding on when a brother